Welcome to Responsible AI in Action. I'm your host, Charles Dimov, CMO at Gamma.ai, the leading responsible AI technology developer. This is the Responsible AI in Action podcast or videocast series, speaking with leaders in the AI industry about the latest developments, challenges, and solutions in today's AI systems. And we do this in short 15 to 20-minute interviews to give you what you want to know about AI developments in the field in a nice, brief kind of format. Today's topic is all about success in AI deployments and the importance of AI governance in organizations. So speaking with me about this is Himanshu Joshi, who is an AI strategist at the Vector Institute, focused on research in AI technologies. Welcome, Himanshu.
Thank you very much, Charles. It's an honor to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I am so happy that you were able to join me for sure. So Himanshu, why don't we start off with tell me a little bit about yourself and also the role that you're doing at the Vector Institute. And frankly, can you tell me a little bit about Vector Institute? What exactly is Vector Institute and how does it help in the AI technology space?
Absolutely. Yeah. Vector Institute for Artificial Intelligence is a non-profit research organization, which was co-founded by Dr. Geoffrey Hinton, who received Nobel Prize for his work in artificial neural network last year. And
Hmm.
artificial neural network, for those of our listeners who would like to know a little more, all our deep learning models, so your ChatGPT, Gemini, your diffusion models, your Google Pixel phone, everything depends on the work which happens at the back end by these neural networks. So the work which was conducted many years back in University of Toronto and other labs resulted in this research, which later on became the commercialized version in these AI tools. And Vector is focused on bringing this fundamental research in AI to its application so that the industries can benefit from it. Each and every Canadian can utilize it for their economical benefit. So we do a lot of programming with large organizations, universities, as well as small and medium businesses. And I, along with my team, we are responsible for connecting the dots between research to its adoption via engineering and providing a more business-oriented solution by virtue of the team which we have, the collaborators which we have. We have various programs which help different size of companies to adopt AI in a more seamless manner.
Hmm. Well, this is great. And I mean, aside from seamless, actually, I'm kind of thinking, speaking with you, Himanshu, is fantastic because it really, really fits in well with Kama's philosophy is all about responsible AI technology. And again, this fits beautifully because I know that I've listened to a number of podcasts where Geoffrey Hinton has spoken, and he is very much about that philosophy of kind of having how do we make it safe because he's got some drastic predictions out there about the dangers of not having responsible technology or ethical AI or some kind of watch for that. So again, great work that you guys are doing at the Vector Institute in that regard as well, keeping that in mind at all times, of course. So that's wonderful.
Absolutely,
Now,
that's a given. That's a given that
yeah, yeah.
anything and everything which is built or suggested to be built, it is grounded on the fundamental principles of being responsible and ethical, safe and aligned, so that it
Yeah.
has its value across the spectrum. It does not
Hmm.
marginalize anyone. It does not harm anyone, and it continues
Yes.
to remain that as it goes out. Because, as you know, these models, generative models, have a lot of drift which comes in as
Hmm.
they continue to interact
Hmm.
with real life data. So there has to be such sufficient guardrails and safeties around it so that we get what we had initially intended from these AI solutions. So that is something which we have been doing a lot of work, and we collaborate with a lot of institutes across the globe on that particular field.
Yeah, and I definitely think that this is going to become a topic of growing importance as we go forward with enterprises, with all organizations that are because at the end of the day, we're all going to be using AI in some form or another for sure. Now,
Absolutely.
all right, so let's switch kind of thoughts a little bit. And let me give you a little bit of some stats in the background that I had done some research on. So Rand Institute, so they also do research in 2024. So just last year, they did some research that showed that 80% of all AI projects are failing, or have been failing thus far. This is double the expected failure rate of typical IT implementations. So that's kind of astounding, quite concerning. And then BCG, so Boston Consulting Group, in October of last year, they had also done another study that confirmed that as well. And BCG stated something about I don't know, around 74% of companies were unable to scale or extract meaningful business value out of their AI initiatives. That's, again, very concerning, that it sounds like the industry is having some challenges here. How do we get this off the ground? How do we make it work? And then the other day when you and I were chatting, you had mentioned that you had just read a Forbes article that mentioned something like 90 to 95% of all POCs. So in other words, proof of concepts in AI were failing as well. So help me understand this. I mean, because you're doing research on this all the time. What is happening here?
Very interesting point, and this has been the talk of the town for the last couple of weeks as well after that report. So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, true, there has been a lot of gap between what has been envisaged and what gets implemented. But if you see, this is a technology which is yet to settle down, so there is a lot of hype. There are a
Mhm.
lot of
Mhm.
issues in terms of how things are perceived and how they are adopted. And obviously, and unfortunately, there's a lot of AI washing. So people would
Mhm.
sell things as AI, but they may not have anything to do with AI. But
Right.
primarily, fundamentally, as things settle down, I would say there are three reasons which could be the main cause why there are so much of failures from initial proof of concept to production. Number one
Mhm.
is the typical hype creates this shiny object syndrome, because my competitor is doing agentic, I should also do agentic, because somebody
Right.
else in the industry has adopted Gen AI, so let me also do it. So as organizations, if we do not see the potential, do not see the value, and directly jump to POCs without establishing proper
Mhm.
foundation, not having
Mhm.
sufficient data, subsequently not having trained team of specialists who could run with it, they the POCs are bound to fail, because POCs are just proof of concept. It's like
Yes.
seeing a demo in a car show
Yep.
and then buying the car without sufficient reviews and not getting sufficient reviews from real users. You may see the difference in what it was supposed to perform at and what it actually does, because the road conditions are totally different than what would be the typical lab conditions where it was tested. So
Yeah.
that is a
That
gap.
makes sense.
And yeah, secondly, I would say there's a lot of misalignment in terms of expectations, because the
Mhm.
executives would expect
Mhm.
AI to deliver and solve problems, but it's important to articulate very well what all it can solve. So
Mhm.
AI, unfortunately, is not a magic wand that it will solve all the problems. So we have to identify in our value chain what piece of business problem needs AI, what needs to
Yeah.
be driven by the traditional technology which it would have been following. And like you said, traditional IT is so well settled. AI is still settling down, and the reason for that, when the traditional programming is done, even after 75 years, the program will always deliver what it was supposed to deliver. If it was something to do with mathematical calculation, it will always give 2 plus 2 as 4. Whereas,
Yes. Yes.
to an extent, traditional machine learning models also would do that with some amount of drift, some retraining, it will be required. Of late, when we come to generative models are very probabilistic in nature. With all the
Mhm.
techniques to ground them, you may do retrieval augmented generation, you may fine tune them, still, they will have a tendency to drift. The data will drift.
Mhm.
That will cause change in the performance. And if it is not monitored, if it is not continuously trained, you do not have proper mechanism of evaluation governance, you will find you have deployed something, and after a few months, it is doing something which was not intended, which was not the purpose of that particular product. And that is the
Yes.
difference in why we are not able to match the expectation. Just to give you an example, I think we talked about it last year. The FDA in the US had to withdraw license of almost 25 healthcare startups because they all were trained on synthetic data. They did very well in the POC stage and testing stage. But when it comes
Right.
to connecting with the real life patient data, there was definitely a drift because synthetic data can do a great job in certain fields, but sometimes a lot of context gets missing and a lot of other issues happen technically. There is something called model collapse. After certain
Hmm.
iterations of training, the model starts
Hmm.
collapsing if it's
Hmm.
continuously trained with synthetic data. So that is why it is important to have a good alignment of what the business requires and what technology can provide and keep checking on it time and again.
Yeah.
And the last factor, which is the most important factor,
Yeah.
AI cannot exist in vacuum. It requires humans, it requires people to adopt new workflows, to trust automation, and as well as fundamentally change how things will work in a combination of AI and humans. And we require more and more human experts, even if you go for a totally autonomous agentic flow, to validate it, to continuously be the subject matter expert to check the performance. So human in the loop remains the most important aspect of bringing AI to fore to deliver results. And lastly, there's a lot of research, a lot of work which is happening now where we are trying to bring the collective intelligence amongst humans and machines together so that we can complement
Mm-hmm.
each other. And a lot of
Hmm.
drudgery, redundant, repeated work can be handed over to the AI, let's say autonomous agents, and humans can focus on more creative work, more strategic work, and that is the way forward. So till the time we don't do
Yes.
this, there is always some amount of mess between what we had intended and what we get. And to quote the BCG report, also BCG also had a model which they came out with for AI transformation, which is called 70-20-10 model, where they
Mm.
concluded based on their research with MIT that AI transformation is only 10% about AI technology. So you may bring the
Hmm.
best of the new models, new techniques, best of the new companies to
Yeah.
find solutions for you. It's only 10% of your whole transformation project. 20% of it is dependent on your data, your infrastructure. So perhaps the
Hmm.
legacy data systems may not be able to sustain the requirements of a high-end AI system. It could be the compute requirements, it could be the data requirements. So that is where we need to kind of make sure that happens. And 70% of it is totally dependent upon on processes, workflows, and people. So we go
Right.
back to the change management piece. We need humans to bring in their expertise, help the AI builders create a very curated solution for them because one size does not fit all. And that is why you will find this mismatch and a lot of these failures. Because POC was made for a generic problem. If it has to be curated for a particular use case, for a particular industry, for a particular team within that particular company, you will find that two companies using the same chatbot for customer care may require different evaluation matrices, different parameters, and that is where the difference is. And who can do that? It's only the subject matter experts who know the system
Mm.
very well because they have been doing it for the last 15, 20 years without any technology. So we need to bring them on board, have them on the table when these models and are put in use to solve these use cases.
Hmm. Wow, you bring up some really, really good points. I like that model that you had. I think that was the BCG model, the 70-20-10. And again, really surprising to hear that only 10% of it really comes down to the AI. It's 70% of the challenge is process and workflows and such. So that's a really good point. I mean, basically, what that says is before companies, enterprises, organizations start on an AI project, it really is worthwhile to bring in maybe somebody who's quite knowledgeable in the AI industry, knows about these systems, and then really think it through, not just from the AI perspective of saying, here's how the technology is going to work, but your own process. How is this going to happen? And you're absolutely right. I mean, I think adoption is critical, and that's one of the areas that is tricky because when you're rolling, I mean, I've rolled out a lot of these big projects and stuff, and when you're rolling it out, either you're going to get buy-in from people, the majority, or people will just sort of like, fold their hands and say, I'm not using this. And that's not very helpful. Now, The other thing I really like hearing from you as well, I mean, one is the whole synthetic data element is a fascinating, quickly rising up topic. I think that's going to be trending very quickly. I think it holds tremendous potential. I know I've written some articles on that on in the marketing perspective that wow, this is totally once this starts taking off, it's going to completely transform what marketing looks like at least, and I'm sure other businesses as well. And the other element actually that I really liked that you kind of mentioned was the human in the loop. And you know, I love that idea also that you're right. We have to start thinking about it differently because there's so much chatter out in the market today about, oh my goodness, it's going to steal my job, et cetera. And well, that may happen for certain people, but the importance is to say, how do I use this to augment me as a worker, as you know, as getting results that I need to get. And yeah, I definitely think human in the loop is the right approach on this. So that's good. I like that. Thank you. So any thoughts on? So yeah, I guess actually once you understand that kind of helps us fix this. Is that where you're going with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
I think those elements which we discussed earlier, them as an organization, I think if we look at these three components, we could actually have a more structured approach to fixing this
Yep.
problem. So I would call them the three elements of kind of fixing your AI solution. Number one could be trust. So the biggest problem
Yes.
right now everybody faces, both internally, externally, is trust. You would like to build trust. You would like to build trust that what you are trying to bring in as an AI solution will solve the problem. So
Mhm.
stakeholders would like to have AI systems more explainable, more transparent, more interpretable. So it's important for leaders who are deploying these to make sure that they bring that kind of transparency in the approach. And trust can
So
actually
when you say trust, do you mean trust with your employees about the system, or who's the trust element with?
across. So it is with the employees as well as with your customers, that yes, you are bringing in AI and
Okay.
AI can do X, Y, Z. Now there are technical solutions to it. You can make your AI solution more explainable, interpretable,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that adds to transparency and that builds trust. And also, we talked about expectation matching or mismatching. So we should always go with some number that we will start with some low hanging fruits, which can be kind of supplemented or complemented with AI.
Yes.
One example that generally most of the industry leaders would like to go for is customer care support, whose customer support generally is
Yes.
very painful. Both
Hmm.
neither the customers have a good experience because you have to wait for long for getting connected to a human expert, and the
Hmm.
humans who are in the call centers, they also generally get very uh, puzzled by the number of calls they get. So if they have these tools available, they can definitely change how they serve the customers, and customers also get kind of service much faster than the typical 30 to 35 minutes of wait time to 5 minutes.
Hmm.
Perhaps they don't have to speak to a human specialist because an AI has already answered their basic question: how to change my address, how do I update my email. All those things can be
Yep.
automated. And then when I have a very critical problem which I really need to consult a human agent, I can be connected to them. So because the wait period reduces, you can serve more customers. So that kind of trust could be helpful. And then I think as an organization, it requires very strong foundations of governance. If governance is
Hmm.
strong, it is
Yes.
responsible. You will make sure that everything happens as per the industry standards or as per what is the right thing to do. It's always aligned for future. It is not something which you are doing just for now. And these foundations can be very helpful to making sure that you are building things more ethically, responsibly, safely, and they're aligned. And that will definitely bring as a byproduct trust definitely builds in there. And the third thing which remains very important, because most of the industries would like to see return on investment. And if you build
Yes.
something with good governance practices, with a lot of trust, most likely you will have good return on investment. And that whole shiny object syndrome, which was bothering you, that, okay, let me do all these 10 things. Instead of that, you will perhaps choose two most important, most valuable use cases, which can actually solve problems for your customers, for your internal stakeholders. It could be that the whole AI project that you are starting as your number one project, that use case is only internal. It's only helping your internal employees to create a better, more accessible, more robust internal knowledge management system. So as an
Hmm.
employee, it does not take me 15 days of time to look for some file and get it from my colleague in British Columbia to bring it to you so that you as a leader can take better decisions. Now, if I have an internal system, I just prompt that system, it brings me some information, I go through it, I have the information ready, I compile it. So the same work can be done in a day or so. And we have had such kind of breakthroughs in the industry where internal
Mhm.
knowledge management systems have been deployed, which have transformed how happy the employees are and what service they can render to their external stakeholders. So these should be some very interesting start points to start with. And then when you start getting ROI of it, it builds again. It's again a circle of trust. It builds trust, and then people say, "Yes, it worked for me, so let me take it forward." And it answers the problem which we talked about earlier, that almost whatever 75, 80% of POC will not work. But POC was very generic, right? You want to ground it now. You want to curate it for your problem, your data, your solution, your users, your clients. So this is the way forward. If we actually bridge these gaps with proper governance, which is very responsible, very ethical, build trust
Mhm.
using techniques,
Mhm.
using traditional ways of building trust amongst humans, better communication and telling them what's happening and bringing them on board on the table. It also helps the change management piece. And then have better return on investment delivered, return on value delivered. I think it's win-win for all. I mean, those who are providing solutions, those who are using solutions, and those who would be benefiting from it as internal or external stakeholders. So this is what I think
Okay.
could be the pillar of fixing these problems.
All right. So again, just to recap on that, trust, ROI, and governance. Those are kind of the three elements you see as critical to start making progress with these projects and start switching from 80% failure rates to something much more reasonable. I don't expect every project's going to be a smash success, but at
Yes.
the very least, maybe half of them would be nice. That'll be a starting point. So that's good.
Absolutely.
Okay, well that's a good perspective. Now I know that's we've been talking mostly about some stuff which is not so positive, and just as well as I do from looking at the news, we're always hearing about the negative side of things. That oh my gosh, there is a lot of hype out there. There's a lot of potential, but also I see a tremendous amount of fear and angst and such. So from that perspective, let me ask you the next question, which is we've talked about basically things which have been going kind of poorly, at the enterprise level, saying, "Hey, these aren't going well yet. We're going to fix them, but they're not perfect yet." Now, I'm personally an optimist, and I'm optimistic that we're going to start, fixing these issues. Now, things are going to start improving, which is good. Now, but beyond these issues, what do you perceive as is going to be particularly kind of done well in the world of AI technology? So, what's that optimistic view? What do you think?
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting question. I think let's look at the other aspect of AI. So you see, last few years, AI, specifically Gen AI, has democratized the access of technology to everyone. Like it was not
Mm.
so accessible ever before. You had
Hmm.
to go to school to study computer science. You had to become an IT expert to actually play around with this because and entry to barrier was quite high. Now you will find, irrespective of your whatever your background is, you just need to get on there and you have the access easily available. And it has broken that dimension of language geography because the tools have become extremely good in terms of, let's say, language translation. Machine translation very good now. So let's say I'm a kid, school kid, high schooler, sitting somewhere in Indonesia. I understand Bhasha Indonesia better, but there's a lecture being delivered by you or a professor at Stanford or at the University of
Hmm.
Toronto. I have the
Hmm.
access to the knowledge using these tools. then and there at the real time, and I can use it to transform. So that transformational possibility of using this technology to solve problems which we were finding
Hmm. Yep.
difficult will change. A lot of things which would have taken phenomenal amount of years. Like just to give an example, Google DeepMind's research on protein folding problem. Protein folding problem is a problem which scientists have been trying to solve for last many decades.
Yes.
Traditionally, it would have taken more than a billion year of PhD time to solve that problem. Come generative
Wow.
AI,
Okay. Yep.
AlphaFold actually does it with that foundation model. And now, what it can be helpful to us as humanity, you will
Hmm.
find using that particular model, the companies which are working in genetics, companies which are working in pharma, they can create hyper personalized treatment cure for helping larger society, but also few people who are unfortunately suffering from certain very peculiar ailments which require hyper-personalized medication. They can't be just given generic medication. That's the
Yeah.
shift. And same technology in terms of understanding the molecular integration of a particular chemical can also be utilized perhaps to build phenomenal amount of material in the lab instead of actually doing a lot of extraction of minerals from the earth. So you may perhaps have materials decided and designed and curated and later on productionalized in factories
Hmm.
without
Hmm.
actually extracting and causing all the harm which we have been causing to the mother
Hmm.
earth by extracting
Hmm.
minerals. So that's the transformational power of the technology which we can leverage. And I think now how do we implement slowly and steadily, because we our focus is on responsible AI frameworks. I think a lot of responsible AI frameworks are maturing, a lot of focus is coming to safety and alignment. So I think as
Yes.
we grow as the users of this technology, more and more industries, organizations, individuals start using it responsibly, and that would be a good match to create transformational solutions which can be helpful for particular user base, particular individual, and help us take things forward. One more thing which
That's
can be
yeah.
promising. Yeah, sorry, please go ahead.
No, 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 no. I was just going to say that that is I like that. I think AI certainly has a fantastic place in both helping us kind of, create new products and industrialize things, maybe in a cleaner way than we've done in the past, and definitely in medicine. If anything, I think everyone on the planet probably would be saying, cheering this on, saying, yes, absolutely, we need AI in medicine. Let's make this, let's have a couple of more breakthroughs. That would be great.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. And to an extent, the current form of agentic AI also is showing some remarkable potential. Potential. Again, there are
Yeah.
issues which need to be resolved, but I think as it goes forward, a lot of automation can help us save
Hmm.
time, which otherwise
Hmm.
consumes a lot of our focus time. And then we, as individuals, as specialists, as subject matter experts, can devote that time to do more creative and strategic work. And
Yes.
now, slowly, as the hype settles down, the earlier problem of doing AI for sake of AI for just creating
Yep.
something is moving towards using AI to solve real life problems, real business problems. That will shift the whole percentage which we were talking about earlier. That's so much of failure. I think in years to come,
Hmm.
as people realize that there is a requirement to check, do I need to solve this problem with agentic AI, Gen AI,
Right.
traditional machine learning, or let me go to the traditional good old Microsoft Excel or a Google Sheet because
Yep.
that does wonders for me. I do not require to
Yep.
invest so much of money, time, and energy for this. And I can still solve my problem, serve my customers, serve my stakeholders better. So that call uh, is something which is now coming in where people are realizing that it's not always the shiniest object which actually delivers. So we can actually do that very, very decisive call as a good leader, that what works best, and we just go for that. So that could be the shift which we'll see in a few months, if not few years from now, and
Yeah.
that is something which
Yeah.
is promising.
And that's a really good point as well. I think it was Brian, Kama's CEO, who told me a story about, I believe it was a friend of his who she was using AI as her calculator. I mean, nothing particularly sophisticated. It was just like she said, "Oh, it's very convenient, et cetera." And the way it goes, it calculates numbers really quick and easy. And And again, it was sort of like, well, yeah, but it's probably, there are other tools which still work, which could probably calculate it without using as much energy and anyway. So
Yeah.
perhaps we are coming to that phase of just understanding a little bit better about, how do we use it properly in the right place? And it doesn't necessarily discredit or make all the other stuff that we've got go away either. So that's a good thing to remember.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think more and more awareness in this regard that, okay, when you actually prompt a particular language model, a number of tokens being exchanged, that is definitely equal to certain number of cents or certain dollars which you have to spend. But more importantly, the compute which it actually cost, or the data center requirement of energy, water, which can be detrimental. And so much so, we can actually have a lot of leaders would consider having, for each use case, having a risk calculator and a carbon footprint
Yep.
mapper,
Oh, that
which
would
will
be a
tell
good
you that,
idea.
okay, you are doing this. Perhaps business sense says that, okay, you use this particular model, everything else.
Yep.
But this
Yep.
particular approach may have X number of risk, and it may have so and so carbon footprint.
Hmm.
Do you still want to
Hmm.
go with this way? Like, for example, just to give
Hmm.
you an example, to solve a
Hmm.
particular problem, you do not have to use a large language model, because now you have small language models with similar amount of performance capability, which can
Hmm.
consume almost 1,000th of compute, and that means energy and
Hmm.
water, and give you
Yeah, amazing.
that result. And you can actually run them perhaps on your edge device. You can use your mobile phones. You do not have to have that much of consumption of
Yes.
compute, because that, whatever you do not use, can be utilized for solving a bigger problem for sure within your organization or in the larger, uh, because you would like to have a balance, right? It should be a technology which should be used for all. It should be used for solving bigger problems. Like you're talking about, perhaps climate change is a
Yeah.
bigger problem to be solved than me actually getting 5% extra clients using AI because I'm sending them personalized
Yeah.
emails. So that is a call which
Yes.
we need to take as humanity or as collective, that where do
That
we want
that
to put the
that
technology?
sounds like the a good topic for our next conversation, which is great. Himanshu, let me ask you one last question here, and that is kind of building on what you've already been saying. So, I want you to think forward the next 2 to 3 years ahead. What advice would you have for someone who's maybe earlier in their career? They're, who's kind of perceiving all this AI euphoria today, but they also see the negative side. And what should they expect in the next couple of years, and how should they prepare?
Absolutely, it's a very interesting question, and this question is generally is asked to me very often. So I would say, number one would be, instead of only focusing on AI skills, it's better to develop a larger
Hmm.
understanding of AI spectrum. So I think
Yeah.
focus should be on developing AI literacy. Same point which you mentioned. Should I use a language model based product to do my
Hmm.
calculations, simple
Hmm. Hmm.
calculations, or should I use a calculator? Perhaps juggle my brain
Hmm.
and do some mental maths because it's good for me. So that
Yeah.
call, because things will move very, very swiftly in next few years as more and more technology gets adopted. And one thing which remains human is the subject matter expertise. So a lot of undergrads in the university would ask me, should I continue to finish my degree course? Why not? You should. We will need more
Yes.
and more focus on human specific expertise in the field of, let's say, physics, maths, biology, chemistry, history, psychology, because we need subject matter expertise so that we can train, or we can perhaps check the output of what's coming out of the machine.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And in fact, there is a report from World Economic Forum which talks about skills for 2030. Most of the so-called soft skills of today, communication, empathy, leadership, are those skills which are being there. Obviously, the one skill is to leverage AI and big data. So that is something which will come only with a good combination of these specific skills in terms of domain expertise and
Yes.
understanding of technology, so that you can leverage it. So perhaps, for example, if let's say I'm a nano engineer or I'm a biochemist, I focus on my work and then I use AI to actually make calculations faster.
Hmm.
So something which would have taken
Hmm.
years of research can now
Hmm.
be put to testing in few months it goes through approvals, and perhaps I can create that breakthrough, which can be transformational for humanity or for my industry in few years, than
Yes.
doing decades of research and still trying to do calculation. So that could be the shift which we can focus on. And there
Yeah.
may be, like, each technology has had its hype cycle, some period of dissolution. There may be some pauses somewhere. There may be some requirements of rethinking how we use this technology. So that could be one thing which we can focus on. And one more thing which people do not passionately think about, but it requires some focus, is the intersection of how we can make use of this technology more responsible and ethical. So anybody
Mhm.
who would like to actually focus on bringing more human centricity to the products as well as the models and technology, that could be an interesting field which brings in human understanding of society, ethics, to the models, and that intersection will help us create solutions which are more grounded, which are easily adaptable, and which can create solutions which are free of any kind of bias, any kind of
Yes.
harms,
Yes.
and they are safe and aligned. So these are the few things which I would suggest to uh, uh, to all our early stage career aspirants. And last thing would be, as always, humans have evolved over a period of time because we were always curious and adaptable. So that is something which I would say at the bottom line. We are not trees, right? We can move. So that is what is the best thing about us. And it's one life, so we can have many ways. We can always recarve something out of our lives. We can always change. Uh, let's say we could be
Yeah.
a very seasoned marketeer or an author, but we can always leverage these tools to change the dimension in which we are now publishing. Perhaps we use more creativity uh, uh, from these tools to bring out our next best book instead of, let's say, a cycle time of 18 months to 6 months, because our readers would like to read more of our work, so we can create more and more epic solutions for our listeners, our readers. So
Yes.
that could be one way of looking at it. Yeah.
That's good. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that optimistic kind of perspective, and very realistic as well in terms of where are going to be the opportunities. And you're absolutely right. There's much as this would be going against a lot of the media hype out there, but there is a good purpose for humans, and we have to find our way in this. And that's awesome. And I also love, given that I am a father, and I've got one of my sons has made it through university. The other son is in university, and it's like, well, that's good to hear some reflection on that. Just to say, you're right. Don't give up on your university degree just yet. So that's good. I'll be able to kind of reiterate that to him the next time we're together for dinner. So that's good.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, Himanshu, thank you so much for joining me on this discussion and on this journey that we've been on. Himanshu is an AI strategist at the Vector Institute, researching topics of responsible AI and ethical AI in enterprise AI deployments. So, with that, again, thank you, Himanshu. This was a delightful conversation. And for all of our watchers, see you next time on Responsible AI in Action.